We're talking about this DIY cycle, this do-it-yourself cycle, this do-it-yourself trap, this do-it-yourself mindset that practice owners have. I guess, and Mike, speaking for yourself, why do why do you think people, or maybe yourself or your partner Adam, fall into this trap, this mindset of the rugged individualist? I need to bootstrap and do it all and continue to do it in that way. What's your thoughts around that? And what is the cost that you've seen, maybe in your own experience, when you haven't allowed outside help, and especially in the beginning?
I guess speaking for myself, I'd probably done 5,000 demos with practice owners at this point. And I think part of it's pride and like not ego, maybe a little bit of like thinking someone else can't do it better than I can. Also, I guess some healthy like competitive dynamics internally of like my partner and his side of the house built the product and I'm not technical. I'm a finance guy who started this in college with no professional background. And once like there was an actual product that I could take to someone, like I felt like it was on my shoulders to make that part successful because they did what they said they would do in the arrangement. Um, so really actually this year is where I've started pulling back on meetings and the cost was my team. Like I wasn't leading. I was spending 40 hours a week in meetings and I lost a few key people that I never thought I would have lost, honestly. Um, and it's because they weren't getting the support they needed from me and from the team.
Yeah. Steve, I want to put the same question to you. You and I have been working together. You've coached tons of clients over the years. You work with some amazing people. You've worked with people that have been ultra successful, 7 figure, 8 figures, and you've also seen some people that really struggle. When it comes to this do-it-yourself mindset, um, what has been your experience? I mean, Mike's really talking about the idea of bottleneck, right? It's
Mm,
if you're the bottleneck, nothing ever gets past the bottleneck, right? If you're stuck in
right.
there, nothing can go past it. And Mike, I appreciate your candor and your vulnerability. That good people will not hang around for that, because good people need direction. They need support. They don't need micromanaging, but they need those other things. Steve, has there been examples in people that you have worked with in the past around that?
Yeah, we talk about bottlenecks. Another image I like to use is imagine your business is this balloon and your need, desire, unwillingness to change and you remaining as kind of the point person for everything. You're putting like a net, a non-expanding net over this balloon. And so you hold it down.
Hmm.
When you step away, when you engage your team and leverage your team, it's like you take this netting off and all of a sudden this boom, this balloon just expands. I worked with somebody that adamantly for 6 months said, I got to be in the business. I got to be working harder than everybody else. If I don't be there, it's all going to fall apart. Finally worked with getting him to change his mindset around this, step out of the business. And a year later, he came back to me, doubled his profit, 1.5 times his revenue. And it was because he leveraged himself as an impact, as a change agent, and he leveraged his team. Basically, his team could do more for the business than he ever could, being the point person for everything.
Did he put guardrails, Steve, like around that? Because like
Oh,
I
there's
oh, and
yeah. I mean, there. He had processes in place. He had systems in place. He understood metrics. So yes, those are the guardrails. A lot of times people are saying, "Oh, I don't want to lose control of my business." The reality is, if you put the systems in place, you support your leaders, and you work with them around culture and values, those are the guardrails. So you don't lose the control over your business, but you allow the business to expand. And Jamey, I would say to every single business owner that I've worked with who has taken that leap of faith, their business has grown significantly beyond what they thought it could. Every single one.
Yeah,
Without
I would
fail.
agree. I would agree with that. You know, doing this, working with other owners for over 12 years now.
Yeah.
I've never not seen it ever. Mike, you mentioned something, guardrails. I never want to take anything for granted and want to make sure that any term we use, we're clear on that. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by guardrails, and what do you mean by how that is used as an owner or a leader?
Feel like I've gone on two directions of like being way over someone's shoulder and then way like not even involved checking in monthly. Um, what I meant by guardrails is like clear direction on what matters and like what success looks like in their role. And just being able to, yeah, essentially monitor that so they, bump into the guardrail, but don't go way past where you want them to be.
Okay, so I'm glad I asked that because that's a little different than what I thought you were going to say. But yeah, so guardrails, I think, based on what you said, are coming from direction, as Stephen Covey said. Begin with the end in mind. When you have good people in place, getting clear on what the outcome is in their role and their position, regardless of the position. Yes, you have systems in place, but you also allow them some flexibility, some give, as long as they know what the values and what the company's about, and as long as they know what the outcome has to be. It's amazing what people can do if you aren't micromanaging them. They're going to be much more freer. They're not going to be worried of so many mistakes. They're going to come up with ideas that you're not necessarily going to come up. Mike, did you see that in your business? Um, where when you started to let go, not just let go and just say, go for it, I'm out of here, but strategically let go. Have you seen people just come up with things and create things that you're like, I've never seen that before. I never would have come up with that.
When we were like 5 to 10 people, we had a tap of this where like we could see someone veering off and course correct a lot faster. But now at 300 people, yes, like at times people will go in their own direction. One of our best hires ever was our head of people at 20 people. And she had us set up career progressions, like defining success in each role and mapping what success looks like to growth within the organization down the line. Um, different direction of what you asked, but like, yeah, a lot of trials and tribulations to get to where we're at now.
Yeah. I love speaking with people outside our profession. When I say profession, all of our allied health professions that are on this call, most likely the PTs, the pediatrics, mental health, and some others as well, because I think we get tunnel vision too often. If you hear from people too often in your world, what you're hearing a lot is their biases. I'm the same. Like, I had a lot of biases in the physical therapy world that I came in. So when you listen to Mike, listen very openly about the challenge he's having and apply that to you. Steve, what Mike was saying is, at 20 people, he started through somebody else, and obviously you could do that yourself as an owner. He started to put in more clear guidelines, starting with, well, what is this company about? Where are we headed? Who are we? What do we stand for? It wasn't just, let's type in the chat GPT, mission, vision, stuff like that. It's deeper than that, which starts to separate you from, he's in the EMR space and lots of EMRs. Why does the world need another EMR space? And it's when you start to define it based on your values, what you see and what you believe, his EMR is nothing like anybody else's out there, even though everyone has access to relatively the same technology and what's it called? Building all the code and everything. That's what separates each and every one of us. Steve, I'd love to hear from you, maybe somebody that you worked with around that, or someone that you've coached around kind of that topic and the challenges that they have without that clarity within themselves and with the team, and then what happens when they do get it.
I was sitting talking to somebody, an owner, about where they're going, and their response is, well, I got to put in my management team. And I asked the question, well, why? Why do you need a management team? So we explored what really drove this owner's interest and what her goals were. And our conclusion was she didn't need a management team at all, because that was not the direction that she wanted to go. And for her purpose was to build a company that replicated the professional experience and training that she had when she worked at a premier rehab center in early on in her career. And so we totally took a different path than what was traditional, than what you were supposed to do. We got rid of the shoulds and the supposed tos, and focus on what it was that she was passionate about, really getting at her values. A couple of things happened. One, she revamped her entire team, because the people she had they were not in alignment with where she was going. And so she ended up turning over about 90% of her team over a year. So it was pretty tumultuous. She got through that. And she later said, that was the hardest but best thing I ever did, because now I know the people I have are going in the same direction. And she owned the idea that she got to invite who she wanted to join her in her kind of this vision and mission of what she was doing. She was not somebody who just had to take whoever would come off the streets. So now she's in a position where she's really owned that space of the specialty and specialization, which now is translating to she's able to charge what she wants and what she feels in an out-of-network setting, and people are paying it. And she had a situation where somebody wanted a specialty service, and they said, how much? She looked at him, held her breath, and said, $500 a visit. And they said, okay, do you want my credit card? And it literally just floored her. Like, she just could not believe it. But because she had aligned with that vision and got her team on board, and now her team is just running away with it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, you've got to be clear on what it is that you really want, and I think, as Mike said, they got really clear on success was. How did you be successful in these different roles? What did it look like? And then Mike, what I heard you say was your job was to clear brush and rocks, make the path smooth, and just let everybody else do their job and run with it.
Yeah. Two things with that. One, quick story. My motto used to be, when I was hiring people, I hire someone that has a license and a pulse, and the pulse was optional. Like, I would just hire anybody and everybody and, put them in there. And then I noticed a couple of years later that we were losing a lot of people. And I asked my front desk person, I go, well, how many people have we lost? And she said, well, you lost like 25 people. Lost or hired 25 people in 1 year. And we only had a staff of 6 people. So that means 4 times my staff came and went. You can't run a successful practice like that. And the biggest difference when I hired a coach at that time for myself, my coach was like, well, Jamey, what is it about the business that just connects with you? Who are you? What's your purpose? Why are you doing this? World doesn't need another PT practice. What is this for you? And he made me go deep, and I never went deep. I stayed superficial. So much easier just staying superficial with all the other stuff that's out there. And once I started going deeper with that and started to align who I was with the type of business I wanted, and started to communicate that with people, all of a sudden, magically, our retention went up. The type of people we attracted was better. The business started to grow. And it all started with me. And I think, Mike, you just said that, and Steve, you just alluded to that as well. So my question, I just want to take a quick little pulse here. My question to you in the audience here is, are you seeing this, or have you seen that in yourself? You know, we're safe environment here. If you haven't been on here, we're safe environment. What happens here stays here. We're all good. We're vulnerable. You know, none of us are perfect. But has anyone kind of, you know, felt that way or experienced that way? And if so, you know, what have you done? Anybody? You don't have to answer. It's okay. If
I
you have
can
some,
talk if
yeah,
you want.
Stacey, go ahead.
I think, well, I've been in practice now 20 years. I think definitely at the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I did the best I could, and but at some point I realized I needed to make some changes. And really, gosh, I've done a lot of coaching over the past probably 5 years. And that's helped me significantly. We developed our values for the business, and the leadership team spent 9 months deciding what our values are, what that means exactly. And then we had a workshop for all of our staff. And that's really helped us in so many ways. One, with hiring, because we put that in our ad and when we interview. And I've actually had people, when they reach out, say, hey, I really like your values. That's why I'm reaching out to you. I think it's also helped, you know, push the people away that might not be a good fit. And it's also helped us a lot when we run into issues, whether it's with parents or staff, or each other among the team, of saying, okay, does this align with our values? Yes or no? And it's really helped. I mean, it's helped so much in addressing challenging situations with staff, and then they'll think about it and say, oh, no, it doesn't. Maybe I need to think about that. Or so,
Yeah.
I mean, that has helped a lot, and that's really helped me in hiring when I'm interviewing also, the values.
Yeah, when you're not as the owner, you're the leader, you're the visionary. When you're not clear on what you're about, you're not clear on your values and your standards, you confuse your team. And Mike, I don't know if you went through this, but if you're not clear on that, you confuse your team, because you'll shift what something is in a moment. Like one moment this is okay, next moment it's not okay, right? Because you're not clear. And the worst people are the people pleasers. Any people pleasers out here besides myself? The
Yeah.
people pleasers are the worst, right? Because the people pleasers are like, someone comes to you and you're like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. And then 3 other people come to you like, wait a minute, you just gave so-and-so over there. It's like, yeah. And I mean, it just, you know, confusion kills business. The reason vision is so important, the reason your values are so important, because it allows people to make decisions, whether you're there or not. Practice freedom is all about empowering your people that believe in what you're doing, and giving them the tools, giving them the resources, giving them the support and confidence to be able to make decisions. And if they don't have those guardrails and guidelines, the decisions are going to be all over the place. So if you don't get anything else from today, if you don't have that, I would absolutely spend some time really figuring out what this is for you, because it's going to be different than someone else.